Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Managing Director, LinkedIn EMEA, Ariel Eckstein.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the second annual Talent Connect Europe, which in just 2 years has gone from a standing start to the largest recruitment and talent management conference in Europe. So I want to thank you for that. And the reason for that is because of you. And so we're very, very excited to be sharing a lot of news today, both in terms of what LinkedIn is bringing to the market, but also, which to me is always interesting, is what our clients are saying, what you are doing to make sure that your companies are able to make the most important decision any company makes, which is who are going to be the leaders of your enterprise, and are able to deploy the best practices and the best technologies to do that confidently. So the nice thing about LinkedIn is that we have two relationships with you. You are our members. The same people who you search and find and help them transform their careers are the people sitting in this room. And you're also our clients. And so we're very excited to have a conversation with you, not just about what Talent Solutions brings to you as talent professionals, but also how we're evolving and changing for our members. And so we're very excited to go through a number of different announcements with you this morning. And I'll be joined by a number of my colleagues to do that. And also, during the course of lunchtime and after, to have you share the stories from companies like SAP, Siemens, Autodesk, RBS, companies that are really redefining what talent acquisition and talent management is. So very excited to share this program with you today, and also very excited to share the after program, or the after party, later this evening, 6:30 at the Kensington rooftop, where there'll be very little content and hopefully a lot of fun. But with that, I would like to introduce our global head of talent, Mr. Steve Cadigan, who makes sure that we are always in the forefront of delivering talent to our business. Steve. Thank you.
Okay, so like many of you, I'm responsible for recruiting in my organization. And before I get started, I want to sort of relate to you on a couple of things. Some of you are probably thinking, like I am, how am I going to close that candidate when they're really stuck on that relocation package? Or if that hiring manager reschedules another interview, I think I'm going to strangle him. Or even better, if that candidate keeps requesting to relocate his pet gerbil one more time and doesn't realize that we don't offer a car allowance in that country, I think I'm going to drive myself crazy. What I'd like you to do is put all those thoughts aside for today, because today is about you. It's investing in making you better and helping you change the game as individuals and also change the game in your own organization. And as Ariel mentioned, we've got a number of exciting announcements to share with you today to help you be more productive and successful in what you do, which I think is the most important thing we can do in an organization, bring in fantastic talent. And with that, I'd like to start with the subject of talent. No matter what organization you work in, what industry you're in, what the state of the economy is in your organization, the people that you bring in are going to define the success of your organization. There is nothing more important. And at LinkedIn, that's all we're about. We're about connecting talent to opportunity at scales and proportions never before seen. And that's something that inspires us every day to do something that's never been done before. Connecting people to their dream jobs, helping people be great at what they do. And our mission and our manifesto is tied to making the members great, connecting them with talent, connecting them to great opportunities, and helping them be more productive and successful. And so that's the spirit behind what we're going to be talking about today. Something really, really exciting that's going to be empowering all of you. First thing I want to do is talk about our member value propositions, because we really break them into three core areas: professional identity and insights, making you great at what you do, and also being available to you everywhere in the world. And what's never changed at LinkedIn is these three core principles. But what's definitely changed, especially in the last few months, and hopefully you've all felt it, is the rate of change. We are changing and innovating faster than we ever have in the history of the company. And I want to walk you through some of those, because they're really powerful. And the best part is the net benefit is the ecosystem of LinkedIn gets better. It gets better for you as a professional because there's more insights for you to gain and leverage, and it gets better for your organizations because there's more talent for which to search for to find great opportunities. So let's start with identity. The core and the lifeblood of LinkedIn is all about the professional identity. And here you can see the professional profile of Eric. Eric is somebody that you're going to hear from later today. It's someone that we actually found on LinkedIn because we were searching for a motivational speaker for the program today. And this is the core area where all of us go to put our own brands out there. My professional profile is my way of saying who I am and representing that to the world, but also doing it in such a way that other people can find me. And over the last year, we've had over 5 billion searches for people. We're connecting people with each other in millions of milliseconds. It's unbelievable what's happening in the rate of change there. But it's not just people looking for their dream jobs that are leveraging LinkedIn. It's not just recruiters. It's also salespeople and entrepreneurs and professionals in all areas looking to find insights to be great at what they do. One of the interesting developments that we're finding lately is people are really updating their profiles even when they're not looking for a job. That's a really interesting development when you think about it. We're seeing people updating their skills, their experiences, and also communicating a lot more frequently on LinkedIn because they're finding rich content there. Now, what I want to do for you today is introduce to you something many of you haven't seen before, and that's the new LinkedIn profile. Because we're not just satisfied. Even though we've got billions of people searching every year, we've actually come up with a better scheme that we think is going to take a lot of friction out of the system. And that is the new LinkedIn profile here. Here's the profile of Matthew Jeffrey. And what you see immediately is a much more visual, a much cleaner look, if you will. We've got the business card sort of profile of Matthew up on the left, and we've also got visual representations of his network so that I can understand him, but also that he can represent himself a lot easier than he could before. Another new feature that's part of the new identity and the new profile is something called endorsements. Now, endorsements is the ability for your network of colleagues or people that you used to work with to be able to endorse you for a particular skill. And those of us in recruiting, that makes a lot of sense. Think about how credible a profile is now because you've actually got people who work with you saying, I'm endorsing that particular skill. If you take a look down Matthew's profile, we're actually collecting some of these profiles. So you can see, for example, here, he's got endorsements for team building, and talent acquisition, and humor, among other things. You're going to hear from Matthew later today, and trust me, you're in for a treat. I know that because he's been endorsed for public speaking by 29 people, and he's seeking to raise that number today. So hopefully all of you will enjoy the feature that Matthew's going to bring to us later today. We've rolled this out about 3 weeks ago, and right now we're on a daily clip of about 10 million endorsements. Again, phenomenal liquidity, phenomenal engagement from our members. Next, I'd like to talk to you about some insights. This is the place where we feel we're serving amazing content to help you be more effective at what you do. And some of the changes that we're seeing there is the new homepage, which we recently launched. Highly visual, with a lot more updated algorithms to help make sure you're getting served great information, again, to help you find the answers that you're looking for. In this case, you can see how visual, a lot of graphics and so forth. Since we launched this, again, just a few weeks ago, we've already got over 2 billion network updates that are being viewed daily. So it's not just content that's being created, it's actually being consumed at a much faster clip, which is signaling to us great value is being created for our members, which is getting us super excited. Next, we also launched within the last 3 weeks. I know, we've been pretty busy this year. In the last 3 weeks, we launched something called a new feature that allows people like Richard Branson, influencers, to spread their word, to share insights from them beyond just a short status update. And not only can they share it in long-form content, but you can follow them. 3 weeks ago, Richard Branson made this post around how to be successful starting a business. And already he's got over 400,000 followers saying, I want that information. I think it's valuable to me. I think I can benefit from it. In addition to that, he's got thousands of people who are liking and commenting his material. And it's not just people like Sir Richard Branson. It's also people some of you may be familiar with out here. David Cameron, James Caan, Deepak Chopra. We actually have the president of the World Bank talking about solar energy and how it's going to change the world. Unbelievable content. Again, creating a really, really rich environment with which to find valuable insights as we grow. In a few short weeks, we've already had 2 million people following all these influencers. And we're adding more every day. Everywhere, One of the really interesting things we're finding about all of our members is that increasingly they're using these devices, mobile devices, to get work done. And our mobile team has been very busy making sure that our technologies and our user interface is highly valuable and highly usable so that they can work wherever you work. In the last year, we've moved from 10% of the people using LinkedIn on a mobile device to right now, almost 25% of the usage on LinkedIn is actually through a mobile device. Increasingly valuable resource for our members. So in summary, these are the 3 core pillars for us: identity, insights, and everywhere. And they're the places where we're seeing increased rapid innovation. So much so that our network right now is over 175 million members and growing by over 2 million members a second. As Ariel may have pointed out, the membership here in Europe has grown dramatically since the last conference. In fact, by over 58 million members. And in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, this region in particular, we have right now almost over a quarter of the entire global membership on LinkedIn. But we're not stopping there. We're not resting there. And now I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about how we're changing the way companies work. Not just the way they hire, but also the way they market, the way they engage with people, and the way they sell. And I'd like to tell you that story in a 3-part act, if you will, 3-part play. How many of you remember the world of post and pray in the world of recruiting? Yes. You still have your knee pads from all the praying? I actually remember my start in recruiting back in the late 80s. I'm dating myself. Do you remember what the strategic advantage was when you were recruiting back then? Before mobile phones, before the internet and all that stuff? Do you guys remember what it was? It was stealing your competitor's phone directory, right? Once you had that, then you put the whole org chart together and you're on your way. Well, we've come a long way since then, and also a long way since post and pray, and we've revolutionized the world of recruiting to the point now where you can source at massive scale in the blink of an eye and be able to find candidates. And a case in point is a local organization, Next, was looking for a senior swimwear designer. And I know what you're thinking. Is that a designer of senior swimwear? Or is that a designer who's got a lot of talent designing swimwear, right? I was confused about that too. Is there a representative from Next here who can clarify? Okay, well the good news is, whatever you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. And in fact, they did find a lot of candidates. And this is the power of LinkedIn. Right now, we have over 12,000 organizations that are using our recruiting products to help them win in this space, which is phenomenal. All right, part 2. So we solved finding the candidates, but what we found was happening a couple of years ago, and the biggest concern expressed to us by our customers was, hey, Steve, you helped us source these people, but we're really struggling in managing how we communicate with them, where they are in the pipeline, who's contacted them last, what their real needs are. And so what we did is revolutionize the tracking of that and move from spreadsheets to what we call, and what we introduced last year, which is Talent Pipeline. And this is incredibly powerful because what it does is not only allows people to upload their CV or their resume, but it also allows you to tag special skills to be able to communicate within your organization with hiring managers and other people in the interview process and to provide feedback, and also to track the level of contacts that you've had with ones. And this has been so successful today that we've got over half of our customers have activated Talent Pipeline. Enormously effective. My recruiting team loves this product, not only because they helped build it, but because it's taken away a lot of challenges that they've had. I mean, my desk is messy. You should have seen some of my recruiters' desks before we introduced Talent Pipeline. It's really revolutionized that. So I know what you're asking. You're saying, hey, Steve, what's next? What's next in terms of the innovation, and how is LinkedIn changing the game? And that's what I want to spend the rest of this morning talking to you about with a couple of my colleagues. We asked many of you, hey, what's the big difference that we can help make for all of you? And the top of mind response, about 80% of the people were crystal clear. They said, you know what, Steve, in this world of information overload, where there's all kinds of websites out there, how do I make my story known to the right people that I want to attract? How do I tell my story in a unique and special and customized way? How do I reveal my unique talent brand? And that's something we heard from lots of people. And so we took a lot of time. We thought about how we could deal with this. And today we're going to be introducing to you 3 new products that are going to help you with this. But when we looked at this, we found, you know what? Already there's a couple of organizations, particularly in this part of the world, who are doing this reasonably well, that are very well known in the UK, in the Netherlands, and in France. Google, Rabobank, and L'Oreal. And so for those of you who have been contemplating this and thinking about how do I address developing my talent brand and telling my story, I want to walk you through sort of the process of how we think about it. The first place you want to start to tell your story is in a marketplace where there's a lot of people. You want to find a big audience. And you want to engage that audience in a networked way. Because the more networked that audience is, the more your message is going to get pulled through to the right people. And if you can find the right network and the right people to engage with, and you have the right story, now you can start to get personal and engage directly and market your organization with the right messages to the right person at the right time. That's really important. One of the things we spent a lot of time talking about at LinkedIn is, yes, we've got a lot of these tools, but at the end of the day, it's really about developing that relationship. Moving from recruiting into marketing into engaging with people. And so once you've got that, I think you start to grok that actually our roles as recruiters is getting even more exciting. Because it's not just about great recruiting, it's about great marketing, and these worlds are coming together. And you're able to build relationships over time in real specific and customized ways. So the good news is, as the world's shifting into this new realm of trying to market in addition to trying to recruit, and the worlds of marketing and talent branding and recruiting are colliding, the same platform that's helped you recruit successfully is the same platform that you can leverage to be successful in branding your organization and having an awesome talent brand. And there's one organization in particular that's been pretty effective at this, and that's Hewlett-Packard. They've been able to use their company pages to highlight their brand and their value propositions in real, unique, and customized ways. They use their employee profile pages to be able to list opportunities that are the right fit for people who may be looking at their organization. They use the company follow feature to be able to reach out and engage directly with the right people. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, Steve, I thought this was about, helping me improve, but it looks like, this whole extra marketing, it could be an increased workload for me. Because we move from posting and praying, to sourcing and pipelining, and now we've got to move into this whole world of branding, targeting, and engaging with people. Got the good news for you. We have got the tools to help you out. In fact, the tools we're using today are being used by people like Lindsay Browning, who's on my recruiting team in Dublin. And Lindsay's been able to be very effective figuring out how to leverage these tools. So what I'd like to do now is start to introduce something we call a talent brand index to you. If you're going to try to figure out how to be better at branding your organization, the first place you need to start is to figure out where you are, is to measure. Here's a quote from our head of operations, David Hankey, who's a good friend of mine. And David runs our internet site. He runs the site, and it's got to be up every second of every day. And David's very, very colorful man. And when he says things like, if you can't measure it, you can't fix it. And he's serious. So if you're trying to figure out your brand, you got to figure out, well, how am I doing? What do people think of my organization? And how do I know whether I'm getting the right messages across to the right people at the right time? And so to introduce the Talent Brand Index to you and a whole lot more, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Senior Vice President of Talent Solutions, Dan Shapiro.
How many of you in the audience are familiar with this brand? Of course you are. I feel like I've known this brand for as long as I can remember. And like all great brands, Rolls-Royce stands for something important. It evokes powerful emotions. And what many of you may know today is that Rolls-Royce is primarily in the business of aerospace and defense. They build some of the world's most advanced jet engine technology. nuclear submarine components, and clean technology. And so at the heart of Rolls-Royce's strategy is to be able to attract and to retain and to be able to motivate the world's best technical talent. And so just as it's as important for Rolls-Royce to mean something to all of you, it's central for their strategy for it to be the employer where engineers around the world dream of working. And so let's ask a very simple question. How many engineers around the world dream of working at Rolls-Royce? It's a simple question to ask, but it's actually an incredibly challenging question to answer because it requires us to look into the hearts and minds of professionals all around the world and know how they feel about Rolls-Royce. Think about for your own organization. Do you feel like you know how many professionals dream of working at your company? You might have a feel, but you actually know. And companies go through a tremendous amount of effort to try to understand the answer to these questions, whether they conduct interviews or run surveys or do market research to really understand how their talent brand is perceived around the world. And the truth is that the data just has never existed. There's never been a set of data that has helped all of us at scale assess how we stand today relative to the talent that we need to bring in our organizations to be successful. What I'm pleased to share with you is that we believe we have an answer to this problem. And the reason is that today on LinkedIn, there are over 15 billion interactions that occur every year between professionals and employers. And that's everything from people connecting to each other, looking at each other's profiles, people researching your organization, learning about your products and services, following your company. We can take all of this new information that's available because of the LinkedIn platform, and we can create a fundamentally new level of insight about how people think about you as an employer. And what's interesting is that because all of this information and all these interactions are tied to each person's professional profile, not only can we assess these dynamics in aggregate, but we can break them down by function and by discipline and around the world. And so what I'm pleased to share with you today is that new measurement system. We're launching a product called the Talent Brand Index, which we believe will be a fundamentally new way for you to gain insight and clarity about how your brand is perceived around the world. Because what all of us know is that particularly in a world where we're going after not just candidates, but the best candidates, not just people looking for work, but people that are gainfully employed and being successful in their organizations, that your brand, the ability to get someone to engage with you in a recruitment dialogue, has everything to do with how they feel about you before you even reach out in the first place. And so to be successful in your recruiting strategy, you have to know where you stand. So to bring this to life, we've been fortunate enough to have Rolls-Royce agree to share their information about what the Talent Brand Index has said about their organization. So what we'll start by doing is looking at all of the LinkedIn population and trying to dissect it down to a couple key constituents. The first is what we call talent brand reach. It's a very simple question. How many people on LinkedIn are familiar with Rolls-Royce as an employer? And the reason we can get specific about answering this question is we can look at all of the interactions taking place on LinkedIn. And we can say is that over the last year, 745,909 professionals on LinkedIn have shown familiarity with Rolls-Royce as an employer. And the way we can come up with this number is that we can look at things like people viewing the profiles of Rolls-Royce employees or connecting with Rolls-Royce employees. And by looking at all those interactions, we can assess Rolls-Royce's talent brand reach. And then we need to look at a second population. The second population we call their engagement. This is of all the people that are familiar with Rolls-Royce as an employer, how many have shown either explicitly or implicitly through their actions that they are interested in Rolls-Royce, in working for Rolls-Royce. And again, we can be incredibly specific. Over the last year, 116,299 professionals on LinkedIn have shown an interest in working at Rolls-Royce. And we can do that by looking at the people that engage with Rolls-Royce's jobs, or follow Rolls-Royce's organization, or research Rolls-Royce as an employer. And by bringing these two numbers together, we can assess, of all the people that are familiar with Rolls-Royce as an employer, what percentage of them have actually shown interest. And for Rolls-Royce, that number is 16%. 16% is Rolls-Royce's talent brand index, and it is a simple and a clear measure of how attractive Rolls-Royce is to prospective candidates. Now, being able to have this data to begin with is a step to clarity. It's a step to understanding where you stand. But what's most interesting is when you can start to put this information into context. Because not only can we assess this information for Rolls-Royce, but we can see how they fit within their peer group. We've spent the last couple months talking to Rolls-Royce about who they compete with day in and day out in the war for talent. And we've been able to come to a peer set and then show Rolls-Royce that of the 7 organizations in their space that they think about on a daily basis, they are currently ranked second out of their peers. And although we won't tell Rolls-Royce exactly who's number 1 and exactly who's number 7 for discretion, what we can tell them is they're performing quite well and that they're being successful in getting their brand out in front of the right audiences. Now, what you may say to is, but Dan, this is the whole Rolls-Royce brand. We talked about engineering talent. We didn't talk about the whole company. What's great about a mechanism like that is because, again, we can tie it back to the individual profile data of members of LinkedIn, we can help Rolls-Royce understand how their talent brand index varies by job function and by geographic location. And in this case, Rolls-Royce can understand that the highest performing category of talent for their index is in engineering. Now, we hope this provides a level of clarity, but what I personally believe is the most powerful part of a system like this is that you can use it to track your performance over time. Because as Steve mentioned earlier, if you can't measure it, you can't fix it. If you can start to see how things are trending, and you can see if your strategies are working or if they're not working, then you can refine what you're doing and you can improve for the future. Now, over the last several years, we've been fortunate enough to partner with Rolls-Royce, and specifically over the last 6 months, they've made a number of strides and investments, both on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn, to increase the awareness of their brand within very specific audiences. They've done a wide variety of things. They've pushed their jobs into targeted places for the right type of talent. They've shared stories from employees about what it's like to work there through videos. They've had testimonials. They've distributed thought leadership. They've done a wide variety of techniques, which they hoped would take their brand to the next level within the right audiences. And what we're pleased to be able to say is that we can now measure whether this is working. Over the last 6 months, Rolls-Royce's talent brand index has gone up into the right. And we can now help them understand that generally their campaigns are working. There are always things that can be improved, and we take those lessons and we reinvest them back into what we're doing to improve for the future. But they have clarity where their returns are working and how they can double down on the right things. We really believe that recruiting is a world where data is hard to come by. Everyone is in a unique situation in terms of the challenges of recruiting the right types of people into your organization. And our hope is that a measurement system like this can help us become what is really our dream, which is to become the most strategic partner you have in your recruiting organization. And so we've decided to launch the Talent Brand Index at no charge to all of our corporate clients. So for those of you that want to figure out where you're standing relative to your peers and around the world and by the major disciplines that you care about, please contact your relationship manager for more information. And before I pass over the stage to Parker, sort of one more thing I want to share, which is that we've been able to take the same data set, these 15 billion interactions, and not only dissect the strength of your talent brand around the world, but we can pull up a level and we can say, across all of LinkedIn, which employers are the most in demand as evidenced by our members' actions. And so 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas, we announced the in-demand employer rankings, a list of the most in-demand employers based on how people act on LinkedIn. And we were able to publish a fantastic list of organizations. For those of you that haven't seen the list, it's really astounding to see how some organizations have really been able to be successful in the hearts and minds of our members. And some of these companies are represented in this room today. But as I mentioned, because we can break this information down by geography, what I'm pleased to share with you for the first time is specifically the most in-demand employers in specific markets in Europe. And so, drum roll, please. Here you go. So in the UK, in France, and in the Netherlands, these are the most in-demand employers on the LinkedIn ecosystem. Can I please have a round of applause for the organizations on this list? For those of you on the list that made the list, congratulations. For everyone else, I guess we all know who we're gunning for. So we look forward to working with you on that. These lists are being published at talent.linkedin.com/in-demand. And this is a resource for not only our customers and our client partners, but also our members to gain greater insight into how employers are being experienced by our members. We're also not just breaking this down by geography, but we're also breaking this down by functional area. Because as we all know, the most in-demand employers within accounting are completely different than those in engineering or marketing or sales. And so we're trying to bring to light the dynamics of how employers are perceived by functional area and by industry. So first, I wanted to give a huge thank you to Toby Barnes and to Rolls-Royce for sharing their information to expose it to all of you what is fairly sensitive data. So can I please have a round of applause for Rolls-Royce? And for those of you in the audience wondering where LinkedIn was in the rankings, we've actually pulled ourselves out of the list for objectivity reasons. So apologies for that. At the end of the day, I'm just excited by situations in the world where you take a problem that's existed for a long time and you bring a new data set to it. And through that data, you create clarity in something that was previously opaque. And our hope and our dream is to have done that with this instrument. And we look forward to working with all of you to learn what this means for your organization, to refine our strategy, and help you then deploy the right recruiting methodologies that actually will work, and that you can track how they're doing and really become your goal, which is become the most strategic partner you can to your organization and really shape your organization for the future. So with that, I'd like to bring up Parker Burrill, my partner in crime, the person who is responsible at LinkedIn for all of the products that are leveraged by our recruiting customers around the world that you use and your teams use on a daily basis. And he's going to talk about, once you've built your brand, what do you do to target and engage the right candidates and the right talent on LinkedIn? Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Good morning, everyone. Really excited to be up here today on behalf of a team of designers, software engineers, and product managers who build the LinkedIn products you use every day. And we've got some exciting new things to share. But before we dive in, I wanted to start with something fun. Like many of you, I do lots of searches in LinkedIn Recruiter. But I rarely think about the fact that I'm searching across 175 million real people. So today, to make it more real, I'd like to do a live people search right in this room. Let's start by having everybody stand up. I'm going to need you all to stand up out of your chairs. Shake out those legs. It's been a long keynote. All right. So I'm going to start with a keyword, and then I'll add on a few filters. And every time I add a new search criteria, if it applies to you, I'd like you to stay standing. And if it doesn't, you can go ahead and have a seat. So I'll start with the keyword recruiter. If your title has the word recruiter in it, I'd like you to stay standing. But I'm not just looking for any recruiter. I'd like to find someone who can help me hire software engineers. So I'll add a filter for industry equals technology. If you're a recruiter in the technology industry, I'd like you to stay standing. Otherwise, you can go ahead and have a seat. All right. You know, I've read a lot about the startup scene here in the UK, and I know that some of the hottest companies congregate near the Silicon Roundabout in East London. So for my last filter, I'll select location equals London. If you're a tech recruiter based in London, I'd like you to stay standing. All right. Looks like we're down to just a few people. You are exactly who I'm looking for. So if you shoot me a message on LinkedIn later today, I'll get back to you with something special. Thank you. And I mean that, by the way. Please do. Please do. So the interesting thing is that there are about 500 people in this room, and that search took a few minutes. But searches on LinkedIn Recruiter look across all 175 million members in just a few seconds. That's like searching 350,000 rooms this size. I mean, I work on this stuff, and even for me, it's easy to lose sight of just how powerful this technology can be. Now, speaking of technology, I've got 2 new products to announce today, and I'm excited about them, not just because they're things only LinkedIn can do, but also because they're going to put the power of best-in-class marketing tools right at your fingertips. So let's dive in. Earlier this year, we released Talent Pipeline, a suite of prospect management and workflow tools that make Recruiter more powerful and more effective than ever before. And since launch, we've seen many of you activate and use Talent Pipeline, and we've made dozens of product enhancements along the way. But building a pipeline takes time and hard work. It's a little like opening a new toy on your birthday and realizing that the batteries aren't included. But what if we could include the batteries? What if your pipeline came pre-stocked? Well, today I'm excited to announce a new feature that does just that. It pre-stocks your pipeline with warm leads, the people who follow your company. Let's start with some background on the company follower ecosystem. Over the past few years, tens of millions of LinkedIn members have started following companies other than their own. For example, a large company like HP has over 800,000 followers, whereas a smaller company might have just a few thousand. But each one of these members has raised his or her hand and asked to hear directly from the company they're following. Some are interested in news or product announcements, but most just want to work there. In fact, when we surveyed followers, 70% said that they're interested in career opportunities at the companies they follow. I'm excited to announce that now you can see your followers right in Recruiter. You'll see a new icon in Recruiter search results and on profiles that designates someone as a follower. You'll also see a new search filter that lets you zero in on followers who are a fit for the roles you're trying to fill. You can layer on other filters and keywords, for example, to find followers with mobile engineering backgrounds. And that's how you find someone like Pierre Dumont, a mobile architect based in Paris who's following your company. Now, when you click to view Pierre's profile, you'll be able to see the other companies he's following. Is he interested in consumer internet or enterprise software? Large companies or small companies? This is incredibly valuable insight into Pierre's interest graph, and it can help you craft better emails and source smarter. Now, since Pierre wants to hear from you, he's more likely to respond when you reach out about a career opportunity. In fact, followers are 80% more likely to respond to an email than non-followers. But perhaps the best part is that followers are a gift that keeps on giving, because your follower network grows every day as LinkedIn members discover your career page, view and apply to your jobs, and visit the profiles of your employees. So don't worry about the batteries. From now on, your pipeline comes pre-stocked with highly receptive passive candidates who have opted in to hear from you. It's like a talent network, but better. And it's just one more example of how LinkedIn is turning cold calls into warm leads. Now, speaking of leads, let's move on to the next product announcement. Earlier today, you heard Steve talk about the intersection between marketing and recruiting. And as recruiters, like marketers, you want to reach the right prospect with the right message at the right time. Historically, that's been difficult, if not impossible. The old saying is that half your marketing spend is working, you just don't know which half. Same is true with job postings. But LinkedIn has fundamentally changed the way jobs work. We've made them more social, more relevant, and more measurable. And it all starts with jobs you may be interested in, LinkedIn's job recommendation technology. Jobs you may be interested in matches the jobs you post with the right passive candidates based on their work experience, educational background, and skills and interests. And over the past few years, jobs you may be interested in has become the engine that delivers passive candidates at scale. We put it on the homepage, in the feed, in our mobile apps, in all of the site flows that reach the 100 million plus unique visitors who come to LinkedIn each month. Matter of fact, I love my job at LinkedIn, and I haven't done a job search in years, but I find myself clicking on product jobs on the homepage from time to time. Luckily, none of them has been good enough to lure me away just yet. But I'm hardly unique. This is happening tens of millions of times per month. So it should come as no surprise that jobs you may be interested in drives over 50% of job views on LinkedIn. But not all jobs are created equal. Some roles are senior or urgent or hard to fill, and you need a way to turbocharge the sourcing process. Well, today I'm excited to announce a new system that lets you sponsor jobs and have them appear at the top of jobs you may be interested in modules all across LinkedIn. It's simple to use. You just set a bid and a budget, and we automatically target the right passive candidates. You can sponsor one job, a group of jobs, or all your jobs. And we've included detailed reporting and analytics so that you can monitor performance and optimize your campaigns. But the best part is you only pay when someone clicks to view your job. And every candidate who clicks is relevant, because otherwise, we wouldn't have shown them the job in the first place. We've been testing this out with a handful of pilot clients, and the results are off the charts. We see click-through rates 5 times as high as on traditional display ads, and candidates who click are 3 times as likely to apply as those who find your job another way. Just last week, I was talking to one of our pilot clients, Red Hat. It's a software company in California. They started a sponsored jobs campaign to fill a couple of roles that they'd had trouble filling. They were actually trying to hire lobbyists into their Washington, D.C. office. And within a week of starting their campaign, they had attracted 4 candidates worth interviewing and made offers to 2 of them. So this has the potential to be really powerful. But don't just take my word for it. We're so excited about sponsored jobs that today, 5 clients in the audience will receive a free credit of several $1,000s each to try it out for themselves. So take a moment to turn over your badge. If you've been wondering why there's a gold star in the back, I've got good news. You've got a free credit coming your way, and someone from LinkedIn will follow up with you shortly. Let's see if we've got some winners. Do I see some hands? 1. 2, 3, 4. 4. I think there's 5. Congrats. All right. We're not the first to do sponsored jobs, but we are the first to combine sponsored jobs with passive candidate targeting at scale. So now you can reach the right candidate with the right job at the right time in a way that's never been possible before. We're not just changing the way jobs work. We're changing the way recruiting works. And hopefully, we're changing the way you work. So welcome to a world in which jobs are fundamentally different. Welcome to recruiting like a marketer. Thank you.